Well, welcome everyone to today's Free Tuesday training. I'm Boyd Peterson. My partner Jim hasn't come in yet today, so I'll be watching for him, see if he makes it here. I know he had a meeting but he thought he would be finished by 2 o'clock. Well, it's a little after 2, so maybe he's still coming. Anyway, I am glad to see you here. We're going to be talking about groups, and which are really tribes of people. At least I hope they are. If they're not, we're going to teach you how to make it so that they are your tribe. And so let's get going. So first, I've got 4 questions here on the screen. It's, are you using groups? I should hope so. Do you post to them regularly? And I got to admit that I'm not always as regular as I should be. I usually get to it once or twice a week, unless I have a conference going on or something special, and then I get to it quite a few times during a week. Does your business manage your own Facebook or a LinkedIn group? This is important to know, and we're going to talk about that a bit, because having your own Facebook or LinkedIn group can actually be a big benefit. We're going to talk about the benefits that you can get from it. And then which one should you be using, Facebook or LinkedIn? What should you name it? All those kind of things if you decide to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, let's see here. We're going to go to the next slide, but it looks like it's out of place. That's always good. So anyway, so let me quickly jump out of that. And I'm going to make it so this picture is going to, I got to have it in the right place. Sorry. Okay. All right, so now we've got that in place, and we're going to do the same thing with the next picture, which is trying to do the same thing. All right. Now let's get going again. So sorry, I'm going to restart from the beginning so that we'll be able to do this. So let's see here. All right. So thanks for being with us. Yes, let's go on with this. And so first off, we're going to be talking about how to use groups to build your business. And these are other groups. One that we belong to, several people that are on this call today, is the one with TLC Business Networking, or True Loyal Connections is its full name. And so, but on the Facebook, it's TLC Business Networking. Has 218 members, and that's a really good number for a small group like this. It is a group that you have to apply to join. You can't just simply hop into it. And there's all kinds of different ones. And we're going to talk about the types of groups first, right off the bat. So first, there's a membership where sometimes that's you can you have to have approval, and it's findable. TLC is one of those. You can see TLC, but you can't see what's inside of it until you've joined, but you can find it, and then you can apply to them. The next one is a hidden membership group, and we'll talk about one of those on the next slide even. But there are several of those where it's hidden and you have to be invited to join it. And then there has to sometimes be approvals to get into it as well. The next one is where posting is available. And so this is a group where you can go into. Once you're in it, you can post to it. And there may be some restrictions, but you can post to it, and others have limited posting. There's even some where all you can do is chat or have discussions only. Now, these are ones that people put together, and they say, hey, look, I don't want anybody promoting themselves. I don't want, but it's okay to have chats. Okay. And then if they find that you're chatting and trying to sell your products on it, or, you're not actually answering their questions and such, they'll throw you out and exclude you from the group. Discussions only is another one that I've seen. Then there's also some that are a limited use, and those really depend on a few different things. So it's interesting to see what these groups do and which one you may use. And we'll talk about each of these as we go along. Now, utilizing groups to build your business. This is one group. This is a private group that cannot be found. So you have to have somebody who's a member of that group invite you to it. And then once you're invited to it, sometimes it has to be approved by a member of the hierarchy of the group. And so there are lots of these type of groups out there, and there's some advantages and disadvantages to them. Some of the advantages of these is the group posts over page posts. And let me tell you about that. So on pages, so when you put your business page together, only a few get to see it, no matter how many you have following you. So let me tell you the criteria. If you have let's say 1,000 people who are following your business page, and several of them have gone in and either liked, they've shared, or they've commented on your post, then they're going to be the ones who will get to see your new posts, but only up to 6%. And then sometimes it's not even that. So Facebook changes their rules all the time. Instagram, I've got the hiccups. LinkedIn allows more to see that from your page. In fact, almost everybody from your page gets to see it that are following your page. And so, in a way, it's best to have a page over on LinkedIn rather than Facebook. But Facebook has some other things. Okay, so but on groups, everyone gets to see it. If you're in a group, everyone gets to see your post. Now, there's a couple things you need to do. So everyone in the group will see that you have posted something. If they have notifications turned on, you should turn yours on. And so it means a push notification is going to come to you. Now, there's a couple of things with that, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too. So let's get into that. So should you create a group of your own? That's the first thing I'm going to talk about. And this is, my recipe for social media posting. And I've created some reasons for posting. Here you can have membership as a reward. Some people will do this. You can buy into a program, or you're part of an elite group, and so they have membership as a reward. That can be a really good thing for some people. Some people love that. Some people like to get into, especially if you have a product or program that you have that no one else has, then you're able to jump into that and and give them membership for it. Now, the membership could mean all kinds of things. Maybe you can talk back and forth. You can get if everyone's working with a specific product or program. And I'll give you an example of this. I belong to several of these types of groups, but there's one that's specific to people who are doing reputation marketing. And in that group, it's from a specific software company that I work with. And in it, they only allow people who have that software. But now if I have a question and it's taking longer for tech support to get back to me because maybe they're away from their phones, or because maybe the company only has American people who are answering the phones and they're only there during business hours. These are important things to know. But if you go to the membership site of the group, then you can actually ask, and other people can answer that question because maybe they've had that as well. And so it's a good thing to have as a reward. Now, sometimes you may want it for customer feedback or market research. I have several customers who do this. In fact, once you become a customer, they give you access to this group. And with that, they can then do training that's specific to people who own their product. And it has been very effective. Now, sometimes you may want to do it on the other side, people who are not your customer, and then you're going to be talking to them as prospects and you'll get people who will join one or the other. Some people will actually move you from one to another if you've been on the prospect side and then you become a customer. They'll take you out of the one and push you into the other. Market research can be also a great one. I know of a company here that is a market research company, and they have a lot of people who have become part of their Facebook group or their LinkedIn group. And then what they do is they send out and say, hey, we've got these market research programs coming up. If you're interested, you can leave us messages here. And it's a great way of getting out to them without having to use email or text messaging. Other things you can use these for is you can have it for competitions and promotions. Competitions especially is a great one. I was in a group one time where the people just simply were all in it they were trying to get a YouTube channel going stronger. And so everyone in it, the competition was actually on a Facebook channel that pushed the YouTube channel. And it was kind of funny because Facebook did not like it in the end when they finally found out what was going on. But it allowed people to have leaderboards and other things on it and show who was winning. Other competitions, you can use it for, we used it in our newspapers. So when people were posting pictures of where they read their newspaper, then people could go in and vote on them. And they voted on it by liking it. And it was a great way of having that competition. Now, promotions can also work that way. You can do some of those type of things, but promotions can actually be a really good one as well. I have a customer of mine that he has a timeshare unit, and he's actually bought all 52 weeks of it, or actually it's 50 weeks because they have 2 weeks for renovation twice a year, or a week twice a year. And so he gives away 50 promotions every year. And he does it, you join this group, you get into it, and I'm going to be doing some training for you, and it keeps you engaged with mine. And as long as you're engaging with his content, liking, sharing, commenting on it, then you're in the promotions. And so it's a good way of doing that. Another one is if you have events. I do events all the time. And so I have one for the Business Success Conference. There's a group just specifically for that. I have another group that is for our Women in Business or Women Business Leaders Conference, which is basically the women's only version of the Business Success Conference. I have several others that we run the events for, and we've put together groups, and people get in there and they talk. We have one that we put together a year or two ago, and it is a support group for people who have gone through abuse, whether it be spousal abuse or it's father, mother, so parental abuse, other types of abuse. And it has been a really strong group. We have a lady who runs it and keeps it going, and she went through a lot of different abuse herself, and so she helps monitor it and keep it going, and it's done some great things for a lot of people. So you can do it with events, and it can be beyond the events. Other times you might have special offer groups. We had a car dealership that did this. And what they were doing was they wanted to get people excited about a new car that was coming out. And so they had these special offers. You come in you join the group, and then they were able to promote through the group these special offers and other things. And people loved it. They really liked it because, they gave away a set of 4 tires. They gave away free car washes all the time. They were doing oil changes and other things that went along with that. And so it was a good thing for people to belong to if they wanted those kind of things. Another one is a specific topic group. And these are really, really common. I'm on several. One of them that I'm on is I used to run a community newspaper. And so I'm in three, I think, on LinkedIn newspaper type groups. Now, one of them is for anybody who's worked in the newspaper industry. Another one is for only publishers and sales managers. And another one is all about community news only. And so if it's a metro daily or a national newspaper, you're not allowed into it. But if you're a community newspaper, you are. And so those are all very specific to a topic. And people have conversations all the time about those topics. And so it works out really good because in the community news one, it's different than what the Metro Daily one is. I'm sure they have one of their own, but I was never part of that. But the other ones, the one that was publishers, we discussed all kinds of things like how do you compensate your salespeople? How do you compensate your editors and your writers? And we had best practices and ideas and things that we bounced back and forth. How do we engage our readership better? And all kinds of things along that line. So that's a good one. Another one is for advertising. So a couple of groups that I've belonged to, they were designed to help with getting more advertising going. So they might, and you get a lot of these groups. So for example, if you've got, the big one that I see all the time is there's a yard sale group going on, and it's a yard sale group for a city or a group of cities. And so they get to advertise what things they're trying to sell. There's even some that are, hey, you have to be giving things away. And so it's free stuff type thing, but it's still advertising because you're advertising, you have that free item that people can come and pick up. And so advertising groups that are really large on Facebook, they're not as big on LinkedIn because, well, it's more for the consumers to use. Then there's also some that are internal uses. I was working with a big company called Capital One Bank. Yeah, what's in your wallet? Well, they had an internal use group that you had to be an employee to get into, and then you could talk about different topics that were important to the employees. This worked really well for a lot of people. They were able to get answers that HR couldn't get back to as quickly because they had thousands and thousands of employees around the country, actually around the world, because they have, I think they had 22 call centers, and 15 of them are here in the United States. Then they had them in other countries as well. And so this was a great way, having an internal one that the employees could talk back and forth with each other to find out about things that are happening and how it's going to affect them going forward. Now, these are all groups that you can belong to. The big one we're going to go into is, should you create your own group? And there's some advantages to this. There's also some disadvantages, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. The power of Facebook and LinkedIn groups lies in their ability to engage directly with the followers, fans, and customers. This means that because when you're looking at a business page, you're not getting 100% of the people coming to your or seeing your message. And where with this, it can really help build, because everyone gets it in their feed. Well, and groups are actually being pushed harder on Facebook recently than some of the others. In fact, I know some people, what they've done is they found that they were only going to Facebook for friends and family, and the groups were getting in the way. So they stopped going to the groups, or they stopped following the groups, so that they were only seeing friends and family. But then over on LinkedIn, it's a completely different thing. It is all about getting everyone together and connecting. So depending on what you want to do, you can have these groups. There are a couple of cool things about it. Page posts can be seen by non-followers in other networks when they get liked or shared. Now, posts inside of groups will only be visible to members. So if you post it in the group, you can't share it with anyone else. However, here's something you can do. If you share it to your page, let's say your Facebook page, and then, or you post it on your Facebook page, then you share it into a group. If somebody clicks on it and it'll go back to the original, and then they can share it from there. So it's a way of controlling it in a way. So, for example, if you only want something posted in groups or in a group, then you post it only in that group, and it can't be shared out easily. There's some people know how to get around it. I'm not going to tell you how, but it is something that can be done, but it's hard. Where if you want it to be shared from the group, then you put it on your page and then share it into the group, and then it can be shared out. Okay. Now, posts will appear on the members' feeds and will be given more importance than posts from pages do. This is important because there are a lot of people who try to fight, they want to get their message out, and this is a great way. So you get people to join your groups, and then you can send to them. And we're going to talk about some other things on it in a moment. But when you create your own page, you set the way people will interact, how you can communicate and engage with them. Now, you can get true fans out of this rather than just those that are curious. And these followers will also invite more of their friends with a like interest rather than just anybody. So there's a lot of different groups out there. I mean, I belong to probably 250 different groups. Many of them are small business or business oriented, but some of them are, things that I'm more interested in. Like I'm in a writers group, I'm in a authors group. I know that sounds the same, but they're different. And in fact, the next thing here, like this, authors helping authors. This is an author group. The other one is a writers group for people who are wanting to get into being a author, and they haven't published anything yet. So that's a writers group that we have. There's also other groups that I belong to, like I'm big on Star Trek or time travel. And so I follow several groups that are all about Star Trek and the different versions of that. I follow Doctor Who groups and some Star Wars groups and some time travel groups that are different. And so I follow what is of interest to me. But having your own group can really be a big thing. So to give you an idea, I was the administrator for a group when I was doing the newspapers. I was one of the administrators for the one that had the publishers and sales managers. And on that group, I could post anything that I needed. And once a day, if I posted it, it would go out to everybody's email address besides going out to them personally on their feed. This was a really big thing. Now, this is in LinkedIn that this happened, and it still works today that way. So you can post to it, and it'll send out to their email addresses what you post if you are the owner of the group and they belong to that group. It's a great way of being able to have an additional way of getting to people when, like on Facebook, you're at the mercy of Facebook and you can't get to them very easily. To email them, especially. All right. So, should you create groups? Let's talk a little bit more about that. One of the things I always look at is how many should you have in it? Would you rather have 1,000 people on a group that occasionally looks at the posts and doesn't really read them? Or would you like 100 people that follow, read, and consume everything you put on it? That's the difference. And you've got to create the experience for that to happen. And as a group leader, you can do that. Now, these are true fans, and they'll be able to be ambassadors for the group, your company, and your message. And this is really important because true fans are better than those that are just simply looksy-loos, or they just simply have some passing interest in it. So you can set the parameters. You can set how often they can post, or how they can post, or can they post at all, only maybe answering questions. Like we said in the very beginning, you set all the parameters for it. And there's a lot of parameters that you can set that people say, oh, how come they're doing that? Well, because there are people who want to use that. And so those are things to pay attention. Now let's look at another set of groups that we can talk about. And these are the big advantages. So you get your customers to feel like they are part of a community, not just a customer. Okay, it allows them to communicate directly with you, and that really builds trust. So whether they're a customer or you're actually putting prospects into it will depend on what your goal is. You can build a tribe from a group, and this is a wonderful way of building a tribe. I have a friend who she teaches people how to create websites, and she teaches classes from time to time on that. And she built a group around that, and it's become a tribe of people who follow her and do things with her. You also have direct communication with your customers. Of course, you can use direct messenger, which is great on Facebook, but you'll be able to also have it with a bunch of your customers. You can send a direct message to all of them. And then with LinkedIn, you can post once per week, and it'll be email. Oh, I guess it is. That's right. It is. You can post once a day, and it'll send out to everybody. But if you post once a week on a specific day of the week, and you just keep that day open and do it, then it'll send that email out to the whole group. Okay. Now I do have a free guide. If you're interested in it, it's 5 secrets to building an engaged Facebook group. So if you're looking to build a group, let me know. I will be glad to tell you. Now, this guide covers quite a few different things. Firstly, they're all secrets, the 5 secrets, of course. How to have exclusivity, how to make sure that it's being done the right way. How to build early buzz, how to name it, the image you should use, the niche you should go after. Then it's talking about empowering members. Now, empowering members can be, let's say you build a group and it starts getting rather large. Like the Connect Utah group, there's 10 or 9 private groups and one great big large one. Well, you can have moderators that you empower members to be, and then they can go in and say, ooh, no, you're not, you're breaking the rules, and they can take off their posts. If they, like in the case of Connect Utah, if you post more than once a day on each of the groups, they can throw it out. And if you continue doing it, they'll throw you out. And so that's, that empowers those members to do that. And actually empowering members is a great way of getting people to really like it. And you can move that empowerment around to other people. Now, secret number 5 is how to get informed consent. And it talks a lot about that. And so this is something very easy to do. So if you're wanting to build a group, I'd love to give you this book that will help you with that. And you can just email me at info@bpmedia.com. I'll be glad to send that to you. Now, this is today's message because groups have become very important for people, whether they are belonging to other people's groups or they have their own groups. And having their own groups has a big advantage if you do it right. And so if you want some additional help with figuring out how to do groups, I would love to help you. If how to belong to groups and how to utilize them, I can help you because I've helped several people get to it. Now, here's one other thing. People say, well, gee, you post for us to our pages. Why can't you post to Facebook groups? Because Facebook groups are designed to be about an individual joining a group, not a business joining a group. So as a business, you cannot send messages into it. You can only do it as an individual. And there's a good reason for it. It does help build trust, and that's what you need. So if you have somebody posting for you on your social media, then you can then post it into, or you can share it into the groups, and you can share it to multiple groups. Unfortunately, you have to do it one at a time. They used to have it so that you could say, hey, I want this message and this post, and here's all the groups I want to go to. They don't do that anymore. But you can go and send it to as many of them as you want, and just have to take care of it one at a time. But it is really important to do that. Groups are a great way of introducing people who don't know you to your business. And so I recommend groups. Even if you don't own the group, it is still a great way of doing it. One of the things that I taught a gentleman one time was that it's so important for him to belong to a group and go in and answer questions that people had. Now, he belonged to a group that one of his competitors set up and was running. But the competitors wanted people to answer questions for people. They were overrun by the questions that were sometimes being asked. And so he jumped in and he started giving these answers to the questions. It turns out that after a while, he became known as the expert in the group, even though it wasn't his group. And he was who a lot of people went to buy from. And so you have to be careful how you answer it. And he was never, ever going to say anything negative about the other people. He just simply answered it with honest answers of, here, this is how this works. And it worked out really well for him. And it did actually build the other company's business too. And so that's why they kept letting him be there, because he was answering the questions they couldn't get to. Well, I'm Boyd Peterson. I'd love to have you come to more of my seminars. You, of course, can go to bpmedia.com/seminars to see what's coming up. And then if you missed a seminar or want to see some of our past ones, you can go to my YouTube channel, and it's bpmedia.com, just like the seminars, but instead of seminars, put YT for YouTube, and that'll take you right to the YouTube channel that is for this program. So thank you, and I hope you have a great week now, and I hope this was helped you with getting into more groups and how to utilize groups. And so I'm Boyd Peterson, saying thank you for today. Do any of you have questions? Any questions from anyone on here? Okay, I've got a question of, can you belong to any group? As we started off with, it depends on how the person who has set up the group, how he wants it to work, or she wants it to work. So it could be that it's an open group, and you but you can set the rules that you want. You know, I get into some groups and they say only one post a day for your business, but as many posts of other people's, if you of other people's funny things or such that the group might enjoy. They'll put in there, sometimes you can answer as many questions as you want. You know, if somebody's asking questions in there. I belong to one group and it is completely a question group. And so I go in there and answer some questions from time to time. And I have picked up a lot of business from that. So it depends on how it's set up as to if you can belong to it or not. Like in the case of TLC, we have set it up so there's 3 questions. And the first question is, when was the last time you attended TLC? And of course, if it was you're in the audience right then, I'm telling you, put today's date in. And then the second question is, what type of business do you run? And so is an electrical company, a auto repair shop. Are you a business coach? Any of those kind of things. And then the third question is, what community do you work from? Now, we have people in some of these groups that are from outside the United States. So that doesn't mean you're going to be excluded. However, there are people we get that try to get into our group that are from Russia or somewhere else. We say, if you haven't been to our group before, we're not going to let you in. But if you've come to the group, whether in person or online, and the only way to get into the group is, if it's online, is if you know somebody in the group and they give you the information or the link to get in. So like one of the groups, we've had people from the Philippines in there because they work with people to get them virtual assistance. We have a person that's in South America that comes from time to time in the TLC group. He provides software for people. They write apps for businesses to use in their business. In fact, I know several people who have used them to build their apps, and now they're promoting their own apps in this group. So that's what it can be about. So be sure to know what the limitations are. I was in a group one time, and they sent me a thing saying, hey, you can't promote yourself except for on Sundays. I couldn't find anywhere it told me that, but okay. So I didn't promote myself again on any other day but Sunday, which generally meant that I very seldom did it because I never think to go on there and do it on Sunday. But, just understand the rules that they set up and you'll be okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I don't see any other questions, so I appreciate it. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.